How's it going, everyone? My name is Jonathan, and I'm working on a project called Cabin. Quick show of hands, who's heard of Cabin? Okay, cool. Wow, nice. Hello, everyone. So nice to see you all. So I'm going to be talking about Cabin today. Cabin is a group of internet friends building a network city of modern villages. So that's a lot of words. What do those mean? Basically, a network city is the context for our day-to-day living. It's where we work, it's where we eat, it's where we hang out with people, it's where we form community, it's where we grow food, it's where we build things. And this is a little bit of a different concept from a network state. It's not about sovereignty, it's about bringing people together. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But first I want to share a little bit about Cabin's history, just to give you a sense of where we're coming from. Been working on this project for about 5 years. Started out with me just tweeting into the void back in 2019. There are not a lot of people interested in this idea. And over the course of the last few years, we brought together a group originally called the Creator Co-op, the little cabin I built outside of Austin, Texas, out in the hill country. And we decided to start a DAO, originally to fund a creator residency program. And since then, it's grown through a number of phases. We have run operator residencies and team retreats, and ultimately last year we launched our network city, which is a set of properties all over the world tied together with a shared culture, economy, and governance structure. Now we're focused on growing our citizenship, building out local clubs all over the world, and building neighborhoods from scratch for intergenerational families. This is a little snapshot of where we are now. We have about 4,200 community members, 386 citizens in 25 locations around the globe. And there are some of the places where we live together. This is where I live, right here. That's my house. These are places, typically beautiful spots for co-living out in nature with high-speed internet, where we can, work remotely, live together, and live our best lives out in nature. We organize online and then get together in person. So this is our city directory. This is a token created register of all the properties in the network, collectively curated by our community. We bring together our citizens, and we have a census, which is where you can see all the other citizens in the network and build your identity and reputation across the network. You do that by collecting things like stamps, which are kind of a vibe check for community participation as you travel around the network, participate in things, build structures, or join programs. You earn stamps, which are maybe a little bit like Boy Scouts. I always think of like Boy Scout merit badges or water bottle stickers, same kind of idea. It gives you a little bit of a sense of what people have done within the community. And we also have roles and levels. You can participate in different ways across the network. You can help to, you can be a builder, a naturalist, a gatherer, caretaker, creator. These different roles that are an important part of actually building the physical infrastructure of our city together. And these are all earned through a decentralized system and awarded to members of the community across the network. Ultimately, if you want to be a part of this, you can become a Cabin citizen. This requires you to get vouched for by another Cabin citizen. I'm a citizen, so if you're interested in becoming one, feel free to come find me after the talk, and I can help talk to you about becoming one. I always carry around both my American passport and my Cabin passport, which gives me access to our network of properties, our citizens all over the world. Citizen benefits also include free stays at Neighborhood Zero, our original property outside of Austin, Texas, citizen gatherings, special events we do at conferences, our governance token. You can host supper clubs across the network. So if you're interested in this, come talk to me. And ultimately, over the next few years, we will be growing the network to our founding 5,040 citizens. 5,040 is the number that Aristotle thought made for an ideal polis, a self-governing city. And so that's our target over the next few years. And we will also be growing to around 500 neighborhoods. Hi.
He's excited about that.
Awesome. Yeah, we would love for him to go. I have an 11-week-old son at home. So yeah, we're very excited about families at Cabin, and we'd love to have more families in the network. Okay. What I'm also going to talk to you a little bit about, rather than just shilling Cabin to you, is that we are a member of the Anti-Network State Club, which means we love some of the ideas related to network states, but we also have some qualms and differences. Balaji is he's actually a member of the DAO and participant, and someone that I have a lot of respect for. But network cities are a little bit different from network states. And what I want to spend a couple of minutes talking to you about today is how we think about the differences between those two things. So this is what people think of often when they think of a network state. Can anyone tell me what is missing from this picture? People. People, yeah, that's right. There's like this one dude walking a dog and like all this crazy tech. This is not how network states actually work. This is This is what they really look like in practice. This is one of my favorite slides I get to use during talks every time I get to add in all the new latest pictures of some of the gatherings across the network. And this is what it's all about. It's about coming together with people, finding your people online and then getting together in person, breaking bread, having dinner, spending time together. And it's just incredible to see the sort of deep connections, as I'm sure you all know, having been here, when you find like-minded people on the internet and then you figure out how to instantiate in person. And those community relationships are really at the core of whether you're trying to build a startup society or a network city or a network state. It all starts here. And if you try to start with some grand vision of like tech and ideology, you're probably not going to get very far. So hopefully, Balaji has provided a very specific one-sentence definition of network states. This is it. I've rearranged this a bit into 5 categories. A network state includes an online community, an IRL community, a DAO, a founder, and diplomatic recognition. And specifically, I'm going to touch on several of the components of this definition and where I think it makes sense and doesn't. So first up, moral innovation. Balaji talks about one commandment. At Cabin, we believe in several suggestions. We don't think that you can organize your entire life around one commandment, or at least if you do, you're probably going to end up with a monoculture of people and not necessarily a great environment to live in. And so at Cabin, we have what we call our obvious truths. And obvious truths are things that we think are obvious, but are not things that most people practice in their day-to-day lives. For us, that's that co-creation grows culture, we're our best selves living with people we admire, and touching grass is good for our well-being. These are things that, again, may seem pretty obvious, but most people don't live their life in accordance with these types of values. Within Cabin, this is how we live. The second one, in-person level of civility, is something that Balaji talks about in the network state. We believe that you don't just need in-person civility, that's a pretty low bar. What you really need is raucous dinner parties. So there's this great tweet from Rich Bartlett, guy who has never hosted a dinner party. I should start a network state. If this is you, consider starting with a dinner party. So at Cabin, we have something we call supper clubs. Supper clubs are just dinner parties for our community. These are all pictures just from the last couple months of supper clubs that have happened all over the world, where members of the community have come together. And it's pretty incredible to see, we put out this bat signal, this shelling point about network cities, and now there are just people literally in every corner of the world. Even some, like this one is a totally off-grid supper club in the middle of the Eastern Sierra, and they're happening all over the world, and people come together, they break bread, and this is the first step towards forming a local community that can eventually grow into a neighborhood that can be a part of a network city. Next up, social smart contracts. Basically the idea of territorial sovereignty relies on a monopoly on violence. This is an idea that goes all the way back to Hobbes, and we don't believe that that's a necessary component of a network city. Instead, we like to rely on blockchain leviathans. So rather than Hobbes's monopoly on violence, or even Rousseau's social contract, we believe in social smart contracts, which is something that Balaji talks about in the book. And basically we can start to build the basic components of the infrastructure that you need for identity and reputation that allows people to build community not just in one place, but across the network on chain. Next up, Balaji talks about the importance of a single recognized founder. We don't really believe in this. We believe that on top of these blockchain leviathans, you can build polycentric governance structures. So what we mean by that is that Cabin is governed collectively by the community in a bunch of different ways. Our shared treasury is collectively governed using a token. We have proposals that split off into small groups to work on things within the community. We have these roles that I mentioned, which are also another form of polycentric governance on HATS protocol, and even citizenship. Like I mentioned, you have to get vouched for by an existing citizen. This is a web of trust model that is another form of polycentric governance where we're distributing the power and responsibility of governance to the network. And finally, diplomatic recognition. The ultimate goal of a network state is to get diplomatic recognition from existing countries. We don't really subscribe to that theory as that being the most important ultimate goal. We believe that the context for our day-to-day living and community is the ultimate goal. And put together this 2x2 matrix a couple months back that sort of breaks down the difference between an L1 where you have territorial sovereignty and an L2 built on top of existing states, and then the difference between a network of locations and a single location. I think one of the greatest problems that we have in this startup society movement right now is that we're all talking about like kind of different things and touching different parts of the elephant, and we need better kind of clarity of definitions around the different categories. So we would call ourselves a network city versus a network state or a startup city or a pop-up city or any of these other terms. And the reason why we think it's important to start with cities and to start with communities is because these things have to grow bottom up. This is from an essay I wrote a while back about new systems of living over time and the cycles of centralization and decentralization. There's a lot here, but the basic idea is that when these new cycles start, they typically get kicked off by some new set of coordination technologies, and that ultimately that starts with new types of cities. You eventually do end up with new states, but that's kind of actually the failure mode at the end. Sort of like what Joseph was talking about yesterday, where it all re-centralizes. The important first step is actually to start with decentralized cities. And by doing this, you can start to practice what Jay Jacobs calls import replacement theory, which is about interdependence, not independence. So rather than declaring independence from a sovereign entity, you can create interdependence with your local community and build a neighborhood that has a thriving, resilient, regenerative environment for people to live in. We think that's much more important than some sort of sovereign territorial independence. And what this allows us to do is start to answer the question, what if we went back to the basics? This is a chart that shows that basically the basics of day-to-day living are the things that have gotten much more expensive over time. This is things like housing, food, childcare, education, and these are the things that we can also start to tackle with network cities. We can start to reimagine ways of living that allow us to go back to the basics and make these fundamentals much cheaper and better for people. That's the ultimate vision that we care about at Cabin. So if you're interested, come join us for a dinner party. The first step here, scan this QR code, sign up in your local area. These are happening all over the world, and this is a great way to meet other people, get together in your community, and figure out what it looks like to start a new neighborhood where you already live. Here's our website and socials if you are interested in learning more as well. Thank you so much.